The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was silent. Hundreds of alien species sat in their seats, watching the center floor. The room was massive, with walls that seemed to touch the stars themselves. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing maps of different parts of the galaxy. Ambassador Kira stood at the speaking platform. She was tall and covered in silver scales that reflected the light. Her people, the Velkari, had conquered 40 star systems in the last century. They were known throughout the galaxy as warriors who never lost a battle. Kira's red eyes scanned the room with confidence. Today she would add another victory to her empire's long list. Across from her stood Captain Do-hyun Kim. He was human, from the planet Earth. He wore a simple blue uniform with the symbol of the United Nations Space Command on his chest. Compared to the towering aliens around him, Do-hyun looked small and ordinary. His black hair was neat and his dark eyes watched Kira calmly. He did not look afraid. Kira began to speak. Her voice was strong and clear. The Velkari Empire has made a simple request. Your species will leave the colonies in the outer rim. Those star systems belong to us now. We discovered them first long before your primitive ships ever left your small blue planet. Murmurs spread through the council chamber. Several alien delegates looked uncomfortable. Counselor Thane, an old creature with gray skin and 4 arms, leaned toward his assistant. This is not good, he whispered. She does not understand what she is doing. Do-hyun stepped forward. He moved slowly, deliberately. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but steady. Ambassador Kira, with respect, those colonies are home to 3 million human citizens. They have lived there for 2 generations. We built those homes, those farms, those schools. We will not abandon our people. Kira laughed. It was a harsh sound that echoed through the hall. You will not? Little human. Do you know who you are speaking to? The Velkari Armada has 5,000 warships. Your entire fleet has barely 300 vessels. You are like insects telling a giant to move aside. Some of the alien delegates nodded in agreement. The humans were a young species, barely 200 years in space. They had no great weapons, no powerful shields, no ancient technology. Their ships were simple and small. Most species in the galaxy saw them as curious but weak. Do-hyun's expression did not change. Numbers do not tell the whole story, Ambassador. We humans have a saying. It is not the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog. Kira's scales rippled with anger. Foolish sayings from a foolish species. I give you 1 standard week. Remove your people from our systems or we will remove them for you. The human captain looked at her for a long moment. Then he spoke and his words were like ice. Then I suppose we have nothing more to discuss. If you come for our colonies, Ambassador, you will find that humans do not run. We will defend our people. Every single one of them. Kira smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. So be it. The Velkari Empire hereby declares a state of war against the human species. May your gods have mercy on you because we will not. The council chamber erupted in noise. Delegates stood and shouted. Some called for peace negotiations. Others demanded that Kira reconsider. But the Velkari ambassador had already turned and walked away, her silver scales gleaming as she left the hall. Counselor Thane approached Do-hyun quickly. His old face looked worried. Captain Kim, please. You must understand. The Velkari have never lost a war. Their military is the strongest in this sector of space. Perhaps if you negotiate, if you offer them something else? Do-hyun shook his head. Counselor, I appreciate your concern, but we cannot give up our people. Would you abandon your citizens if someone threatened them? Thane's forearms trembled slightly. No, I would not. But Captain, you do not know what you face. The Velkari are ruthless. They will destroy everything. I have seen them burn entire planets. The human captain's face softened a little. Then I hope they are prepared for what they will face in return. Humans may be young in space, Counselor, but we are old in war. We have fought each other for thousands of years on our own planet. We know what war costs, and we know how to pay that cost. Thane watched as Do-hyun left the chamber. The old counselor turned to his assistant, a young member of his species named Vera. Send a message to the historical archives. I want every record we have on human history, everything. Vera looked confused. Sir, why do we need human history? Thane's eyes were sad. Because the Velkari are about to learn a terrible lesson, and I need to know if my fears are correct. Within hours, the news spread across the galaxy. The mighty Velkari Empire had declared war on humanity. Most species expected the conflict to be over quickly. Some felt sorry for the humans. Others saw it as an opportunity to take human trade routes and colonies after the Velkari crushed them. On Earth, in the United Nations Space Command headquarters, alarms began to sound. Admiral Sarah Chen called an emergency meeting. All the top military leaders gathered in the war room. The holographic display showed the positions of Velkari fleets beginning to move toward human space. Captain Do-hyun arrived from the council meeting. He looked tired but determined. They would not listen to reason, he reported. Kira believes we are weak. She thinks we will run. Admiral Chen nodded slowly. She was an older woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had fought in the colony wars 20 years ago. Then we show them they are wrong. Status report. A young officer stepped forward. Ma'am, all colonies have been alerted. They are preparing defenses. The outer rim stations are evacuating civilians to safer positions. Our fleet is mobilizing. We have 287 combat-ready vessels. Against 5,000, someone muttered. Chen's eyes hardened. Numbers are not everything. The Velkari have bigger ships and more weapons, but they have never fought anyone like us. They are used to enemies who surrender or die quickly. They do not know about human stubbornness. She turned to the tactical display. We cannot win a direct battle. Not against their numbers. So we will not fight a direct battle. We will use guerrilla tactics. We will hit them where they are weak and run when they are strong. We will make every system, every asteroid, every piece of space they enter a nightmare for them. Do-hyun looked at the map. They will come for Proxima first. It is our closest colony to their space. They will want a quick victory to frighten the others. Chen agreed. Then Proxima is where we teach them their first lesson. Send orders to Commander Yuri in that sector. Tell him to prepare the welcome party, and tell our people in the colonies something else. What should I tell them, Admiral? Chen's voice was firm and strong. Tell them that Earth has not forgotten them. Tell them that help is coming. And tell them to hold on no matter what, because humans do not abandon their own. The orders went out across human space. On colony worlds, people watched the skies with fear and determination. Parents held their children. Soldiers checked their weapons. Engineers prepared traps and defenses. Everyone knew what was coming. In the Velkari Empire, Admiral Yuna received her orders. She was a veteran commander who had won 50 battles. She looked at the intelligence reports on human military capability and smiled. This would be easy. Her fleet of 300 warships would sweep through the Proxima system like a storm. The humans would see Velkari power and surrender. It always happened that way. She called her officers together. We jumped to Proxima in 6 hours. Expect light resistance. Human ships are small and poorly armed. Destroy any that fight. Capture any that surrender. We will be home in a week with news of victory. Her officers cheered. This would be another easy conquest. Another world added to the empire. Another enemy crushed beneath Velkari might. But in the Proxima system, Lieutenant Junho Park sat in the command chair of the destroyer Relentless. Around him, 19 other human ships waited in the asteroid belt. They were hidden among the rocks, their engines cold, their weapons ready. Junho was young, only 28 years old. This was his first real battle. His hands wanted to shake, but he kept them steady. His crew looked at him, waiting for orders, waiting for hope. He thought about his family back on Earth, his mother, his little sister. He thought about the colonists on Proxima, the people he was supposed to protect. And he thought about what his grandfather had told him once, long ago. His grandfather had been a soldier too in an old war on Earth. Never give up, the old man had said, even when you are afraid. Even when the enemy is bigger and stronger. You fight because it is right. You fight because people depend on you. And you fight because that is what humans do. Junho took a deep breath. He opened the communication channel to all the ships in his squadron. All vessels, this is Park. The enemy is coming. They think we are weak. They think we will run. Let us show them what humans are really made of. For Earth, for our families, for every person counting on us. We hold this line. 20 ships answered as one. We hold the line. And in the darkness of space, the Velkari fleet began to arrive. The Velkari fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel in a brilliant flash of blue energy. 300 massive warships suddenly filled the space around Proxima Centauri. Each vessel was enormous, 10 times the size of the largest human destroyer. Their weapons hummed with power. Their shields glowed with protective energy. Admiral Yuna stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Crimson Dawn. Through the wide viewing window, She could see the small blue planet of Proxima b in the distance. Scanners showed human settlements on the surface, mining stations in orbit. Everything looked peaceful and unprepared. "Scan for enemy vessels," Yuna ordered. Her voice was calm and confident. This was routine. She had done this dozens of times before. Her sensor officer studied his displays. "Admiral, I detect 20 small vessels hiding in the asteroid belt. They appear to be destroyers and frigates. No large ships. No carriers or battleships," Yuna almost laughed. 20 ships against 300? The humans were either very brave or very stupid. Probably both. "Open a communication channel. Let me speak to their commander." The channel crackled open. A young human face appeared on the screen. He looked barely old enough to be a soldier. His uniform was simple and his eyes were tired. But there was something in those eyes that made Yuna pause. Not fear, something else. Determination, maybe. "This is Lieutenant Junho Park of the UNS Relentless," the human said quietly. "State your purpose here." Yuna's scales rippled with amusement. "I am Admiral Yuna of the Velkari Imperial Fleet. We are here to claim this system for the Empire. You have one chance to surrender. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Your people will be relocated. If you cooperate, no one needs to die today." Junho looked at her steadily. "I'm afraid I cannot do that, Admiral. This system belongs to the people who live here. We will not let you take it." Yuna's amusement faded. "Lieutenant, look at your sensors. You have 20 ships. I have 300. Each of my vessels is larger and more powerful than yours. This is not courage. This is suicide." The young human's expression did not change. "Maybe, but it is our choice to make. You want this system? You will have to go through us first." Yuna cut the communication. She felt a flicker of respect for the young officer. He had courage, at least. But courage without wisdom was just another word for foolishness. "All ships, battle formation. Target those destroyers. Weapons free." The Velkari fleet moved forward like a wall of metal and fire. Their weapons locked onto the human ship still hiding among the asteroids. Energy cannons began to charge. Missile tubes opened. Then the humans did something unexpected. They did not run. They did not try to escape. Instead, they attacked. 20 small ships burst from the asteroid field at maximum speed. They did not fly in formation. They did not follow standard tactics. They scattered in all directions like insects, each one moving independently, unpredictably. Junho's destroyer, the Relentless, led the charge. He dove straight into the heart of the Velkari formation. His weapons officer fired missiles and energy beams at the nearest warship. The shots were too small to penetrate the heavy shields, but they got the ship's attention. "All power to engines," Junho ordered. "Keep moving. Do not let them lock onto us." The Relentless twisted and turned through space. Velkari weapons fire lit up the darkness all around them. Energy beams missed by meters. Missiles exploded against asteroids. But the little human ship kept dodging, kept moving, kept firing. Across the battlefield, the other human ships did the same. They flew close to the Velkari vessels, too close for the big ships to aim properly. They hid behind asteroids and debris. They used the enemy's own ships as cover. On the Crimson Dawn, Yuna watched in growing frustration. Her ships were firing constantly, but they could not hit the small, fast human vessels. "What are they doing?" she demanded. "Why are they not fighting properly?" Her tactical officer shook his head. "Admiral, they are not following any standard battle doctrine. They are using guerrilla tactics. Hit and run. They strike and disappear before we can respond." Then something worse happened. One of the human destroyers, damaged and leaking air, suddenly accelerated directly toward a Velkari cruiser. The cruiser's captain tried to shoot it down, but the destroyer was moving too fast, weaving too unpredictably. "It is going to ram us," the Velkari captain screamed into the communication channel. Yuna could only watch in horror as the human ship crashed into the cruiser at full speed. The explosion was massive. Both vessels were destroyed instantly. "The shockwave rocked nearby Velkari ships. They are insane," Yuna whispered. "They are actually willing to die just to take one of us with them." But it was not just one ship. Across the battle, other damaged human vessels made the same choice. When their weapons failed, when their shields collapsed, when they knew they could not escape, they turned their ships into weapons. They rammed Velkari warships, aiming for weak points in the armor, targeting engines and weapon systems. Each human destroyer that died took at least one Velkari ship with it. Some took 2 or 3. Junho watched his tactical display as ship after ship disappeared from the screen. The Dauntless rammed a Velkari battleship. The Fearless took out 2 frigates before exploding. The Valiant crashed into a carrier, causing a chain reaction that destroyed 3 more enemy vessels. His communications officer looked at him with tears in her eyes. "Sir, we are the last ship left." Junho nodded slowly. The Relentless was heavily damaged. The shields were gone. The weapons were offline. The engines were failing. Around them, the Velkari fleet was closing in. But they had done it. 20 human ships had destroyed or damaged 40 Velkari warships. The enemy had paid a heavy price for this system. "Send a final message to Fleet Command," Junho ordered. His voice was steady. "Tell them we held the line as long as we could. Tell them the enemy is not invincible. They bleed, they die. And tell them we made it expensive." He turned to his crew. These people had followed him without question. They had faced impossible odds without complaint. "It has been an honor serving with all of you." The crew stood at attention. They knew what was coming. They were afraid, but they were ready. Junho pointed the Relentless toward the Crimson Dawn, the Velkari flagship. He pushed the engines to maximum power. The ship groaned and shook, but it accelerated. On the Velkari flagship, Yuna watched the last human ship turn toward her. For a moment, she met the eyes of the young lieutenant on the communication screen. There was no hate in those eyes, no anger, just cold, absolute determination. "Evasive maneuvers," Yuna shouted. "Shoot it down! Shoot it down now!" The Crimson Dawn's weapons fired desperately. Energy beams struck the Relentless again and again. Part of the hull tore away. The bridge was hit. But the little ship kept coming. At the last second, Junho whispered, "For Earth." The Relentless struck the Crimson Dawn just below the command section. The explosion lit up the entire system. The flagship's shields failed. The armor crumpled. Secondary explosions tore through the massive vessel. Yuna was thrown from her feet. Alarms screamed. Fires broke out across the bridge. Her ship was dying. Through the smoke and chaos, she could see space through a hole in the hull. They had to evacuate. "All hands abandon ship," she ordered. "Get to the escape pods now." As Velkari crew members fled the dying flagship, Yuna looked at the wreckage of the human destroyer floating nearby. 20 ships had faced 300. They had all died. But they had taken 40 Velkari vessels with them, and they had hurt her, the great Admiral Yuna, forcing her to abandon her own flagship. For the first time in her long military career, Yuna felt something she had never felt before. Fear, not fear of death. Fear of the enemy. Because if this was how 20 humans fought, what would 300 do? What would 3,000 do? In her escape pod floating among the debris, Yuna sent a message back to the Velkari Empire. It was marked urgent, maximum priority. "This is Admiral Yuna. The humans are not what we expected. They do not surrender. They do not retreat. They fight to the death. Every single one of them. And they are very, very good at killing. I request immediate reinforcements and a review of our war strategy. I fear we have made a terrible mistake." But back at Velkari High Command, her message was ignored. The general saw that Yuna had taken the Proxima system. Yes, she had lost some ships, but she had won. The humans were defeated. This only proved that the Empire was stronger. They ordered the main armada to advance. 5,000 ships began to move toward human space. The Velkari Empire would crush this rebellion quickly and completely. They had no idea what was waiting for them. 3 weeks after the battle at Proxima, the Velkari main armada arrived at the edge of human core territory. 5,000 warships, the largest fleet ever assembled by the Empire, hung in the darkness like a cloud of metal stars. Their destination was Luna, the moon of Earth itself. If they could strike at humanity's home system, the war would be over. Ambassador Kira stood on the command deck of the super battleship Eternal Victory. This massive vessel was 3 kilometers long, bristling with enough weapons to destroy a planet. Around it, the rest of the armada stretched as far as sensors could detect. This was overwhelming force. This was the power of an empire. "How many human ships do we face?" Kira asked the fleet admiral. The admiral checked his displays. "Our scouts report approximately 200 vessels defending the Luna orbital zone. They have positioned themselves between us and Earth. It appears to be their entire remaining fleet." Kira smiled. 200 against 5,000. Even after the embarrassment at Proxima, the numbers still favored the Velkari overwhelmingly. "Order the fleet to advance. We will sweep them aside and then reduce Earth's military installations to rubble. Perhaps then these stubborn humans will learn their place. But on the human side of the battlefield, General Hyunwoo stood in the war room deep inside Luna Base. He was a broad-shouldered man with gray hair and scars from a dozen old battles. He had fought in every major conflict of the last 30 years. He knew how to win when winning seemed impossible. Around him, holographic displays showed the approaching Valkyrie fleet. It was terrifying to look at. So many ships, so much firepower. But Hyunwoo's face remained calm. He had prepared for this moment. Status of the defensive grid? He asked. Tactical Officer Ji-won, a sharp-eyed woman in her 30s, reported quickly. All orbital platforms are armed and ready, sir. We have positioned them to create overlapping fields of fire. The enemy will have to pass through 3 kill zones to reach Luna. Hyunwoo nodded. And our ships? Deployed in strike groups as ordered. Each group has been assigned specific targets. They know the plan, sir. The general looked at the map one more time. He had studied the Valkyrie tactics carefully. They always fought the same way. They advanced in a massive formation, using their superior numbers to overwhelm enemies. They relied on heavy armor and powerful shields. They expected opponents to either run or die. But Hyunwoo was not going to run, and he was not going to fight the way they expected. Execute Plan Hornet's Nest, he ordered quietly. The human fleet did not wait for the Valkyrie to reach them. Instead, they attacked first. But they did not charge forward as a single force. They split into dozens of small groups, each moving independently. The Valkyrie fleet opened fire with thousands of weapons. Space lit up with energy beams and missile trails. But the human ships were not where the Valkyrie expected them to be. They had scattered, moving at high speed in unpredictable patterns. Ji-won watched her tactical display with intense focus. She had spent weeks analyzing Valkyrie fleet movements from old battle records. She had found a pattern. The enemy ships always maintained a standard formation distance from each other. This created gaps, small spaces between vessels where weapons could not cover properly. Strike Group Alpha, target coordinates uploaded, she said into her headset. Hit them in the gaps. A squadron of human destroyers dove into one of those gaps. They fired missiles and torpedoes, not at the heavily armored front of the Valkyrie ships, but at the sides and rear where the armor was thinner. 3 enemy cruisers exploded before they could turn to defend themselves. Before the Valkyrie could respond, the human ships were already gone, racing away to strike somewhere else. On the Eternal Victory, Kira watched in growing anger as her fleet took losses. Why are they not standing and fighting? She demanded. Why do they keep running? The fleet admiral looked worried. Ambassador, this is the same tactic they used at Proxima. They are not trying to fight us ship to ship. They are trying to bleed us, then stop them. Send fighters to chase them down. The admiral gave the order. Thousands of small Valkyrie fighter craft launched from the larger ships. They raced after the human vessels, trying to pin them down. But this was exactly what Hyunwoo had wanted. Now, he said simply, the orbital defense platforms that had been hiding on the dark side of Luna suddenly activated. Massive railguns began firing. These weapons did not use energy or missiles. They used simple physics, accelerating metal projectiles to incredible speeds. The Valkyrie fighters, focused on chasing human ships, flew directly into the railgun fire. Hundreds of them were destroyed in seconds. The survivors scattered in panic. At the same moment, the human fleet stopped running. Every ship turned and fired at once. They had led the Valkyrie into a carefully prepared ambush. The enemy fleet, spread out and disorganized from chasing targets, was vulnerable. The battle became chaos. Ships exploded on both sides. The humans were still outnumbered badly, but they were fighting smart. They targeted enemy command ships. They went after supply vessels. They destroyed communication relays. And when Valkyrie ships were damaged, something unexpected happened. Human rescue ships appeared, pulling Valkyrie survivors from destroyed vessels. Wounded enemy soldiers were brought aboard human medical ships. Dr. Sora worked frantically in the medical bay of the hospital ship Mercy. Around her, both human and Valkyrie wounded lay on beds. Her staff treated everyone the same way, without discrimination. A Valkyrie officer, his silver scales burned and blackened, stared at her in confusion. "Why are you helping me?" he asked in broken human language. "We are enemies. We came to destroy your world." Sora looked up from treating his wounds. She was exhausted, having worked for 18 hours straight, but her eyes were kind. "Because you are wounded. Because you need help, that is enough reason. The Velkari officer did not understand. In his culture, defeated enemies were left to die. Mercy was weakness. Your people are strange, he whispered. Sora smiled sadly. Maybe, but it is who we are. We fight when we must. We save lives when we can. Both things are true. Word of this spread through the Velkari fleet. Prisoners who were rescued told their comrades. Enemy soldiers who expected torture or execution instead received medical care and decent treatment. It confused them. It made them question what their leaders had told them about humans. On the Eternal Victory, Kira received reports of these rescues. She was furious. The humans are trying to trick us. This is some kind of psychological warfare, but the fleet admiral shook his head slowly. Ambassador, our rescued crews say the humans are genuine. They truly believe in treating prisoners well, and it is working. Our soldiers are beginning to doubt why we are fighting this war. Kira wanted to argue, but she could not. She could see it in the faces of her crew. They were starting to wonder. If the humans were such terrible savages, why did they save enemy lives? If Earth needed to be conquered, why were its defenders so brave and honorable? The battle raged for 3 days. The Velkari fleet was larger and had more firepower, but the humans were fighting on their home ground. They knew every asteroid, every orbit, every hiding place. They used the moon itself as cover. They lured enemy ships into crossing paths so the Velkari ended up shooting at each other. Slowly, the tide began to turn. Not because the humans were winning in terms of numbers. They were still losing ships. But the Velkari were losing will. Their crews were exhausted. Their officers were confused. Their soldiers were questioning orders. General Hyunwoo could see it in the tactical data. The enemy attacks were becoming less coordinated. Ships were hesitating before firing. Some were even beginning to withdraw. Jiwon approached him with a report. Sir, we have lost 98 ships. But the enemy has lost over 800, and their morale is breaking. I think if we push now hard, we can break their formation completely. Hyunwoo considered this. He could order a final assault. It would cost more human lives, but it might end the battle. Or he could offer them a chance to retreat. To save lives on both sides, he made his decision. Open a communication channel to the Velkari flagship. I want to speak to their commander. When Kira's face appeared on the screen, Hyunwoo saw immediately that she was shaken. The proud ambassador looked tired and uncertain. Ambassador Kira, Hyunwoo said formally, you have fought bravely. Your soldiers have shown great courage. But this battle is not going to end the way you hoped. I am offering you a chance to withdraw your fleet. Take your wounded. Take your dead, go home. No one else needs to die today. Kira stared at him in disbelief. You are offering me surrender terms? You are the one who is outnumbered. Hyunwoo shook his head. I am not offering surrender terms. I am offering you a choice. You can continue this battle and lose more ships. Or you can leave now and tell your empire what you have learned here. Tell them that humans will defend their home no matter the cost. Tell them that we treat our enemies with honor. Tell them that this war will never end the way you think it will. For a long moment, Kira was silent. Pride warred with reality. Then slowly, she nodded. Very well, General. We will withdraw. But this is not over. Hyunwoo's expression was grave. No, it is not over. But perhaps now you understand what kind of enemy you face. The Velkari fleet began to pull back. They left behind wreckage and silence. But they also left behind something else. Doubt. 2 months after the Battle of Luna, the war had reached a stalemate. The Velkari Empire controlled the outer rim systems. Humanity held its core worlds. Neither side could push forward without terrible losses, but both sides knew the stalemate could not last forever. In a secure intelligence facility on Mars, Officer Minho sat in front of 6 holographic screens. He was a thin man with tired eyes and fingers that moved constantly across his keyboard. For weeks he had been intercepting and decoding Velkari military communications. Most of it was routine, fleet movements, supply requests, battle reports, but tonight he found something different. A heavily encrypted message from Velkari High Command to Ambassador Kira. Minho's decryption software struggled with it for hours. When it finally broke through, what he saw made his blood run cold. My God, he whispered. I need to contact Earth Command immediately. Within an hour, the Human War Council was in emergency session. Admiral Do-hyun, General Hyunwoo, and a dozen other senior officers gathered around a conference table. Minho's face appeared on a screen, looking nervous. Show us what you found, Do-hyun ordered. Minho brought up a star map. A single point glowed red at the center. This is Velkara Prime, the Velkari homeworld. According to the intercepted communications, their entire military command structure is located there. Their shipyards, their training academies, their central government, everything. The room was silent. Every person there understood what this meant. If they could strike at the Velkari homeworld, they could end the war. But it would require going deep into enemy territory. It would be incredibly dangerous. Colonel Bora, a veteran intelligence officer with short black hair and a scarred face, spoke carefully. This could be a trap. They might have leaked this information deliberately to lure our fleet into an ambush. Minho shook his head. I do not think so, Colonel. The encryption was too complex, and the message includes detailed defense schedules. I believe this is genuine. Hyunwoo studied the map with a frown. Even if it is real, attacking their homeworld would be seen as an escalation. Right now, we fight at military targets. But if we strike at Velkara Prime, civilians will be at risk. Is that a line we want to cross? The room erupted in debate. Some officers argued that this was their chance to win the war quickly. Others worried about the moral implications. A few wanted revenge for the human colonies that had been attacked. Do-hyun raised his hand for silence. As the ranking officer, the final decision would be his. If we do this, we do it the right way. We strike only at military targets. No civilian areas, no cities. We show them that humans can reach their homeworld. But we also show them that we have honor. We are not conquerors. We are defenders who will go as far as necessary to protect our people. Bora nodded slowly. A surgical strike. In and out before their fleet can respond. It could work, but we will need our best people. Do-hyun looked around the table. Assemble a strike force. 100 ships, fast maneuverable vessels, and I want precision weapons only. Nothing that could cause widespread destruction. We make our point without becoming the monsters they think we are. The mission was planned in absolute secrecy. Only a handful of people knew about it. The strike force assembled at a hidden staging point beyond Neptune. 100 of humanity's best ships and crews, ready to travel deep into enemy space. Fighter pilot Seungjun checked his systems for the 10th time. He was 25 years old and had flown 73 combat missions. His squadron would provide escort for the larger ships. It was dangerous work, but someone had to do it. Nervous? His wingman asked over the radio. Seungjun laughed, but there was no humor in it. Terrified. We are about to fly into the heart of the Empire and attack their most protected world. But I trust the plan. And I trust the people I am flying with. The strike force jumped to faster than light speed. They traveled for 6 days, using secret routes through empty space to avoid Velkari patrols. When they finally emerged at the edge of the Velkara system, what they saw took their breath away. Velkara Prime was beautiful. A blue and green world, much like Earth. Cities glittered on the night side. Orbital stations hung in space like jewels. And surrounding it all, hundreds of defense platforms and patrol ships. Do-hyun stood on the bridge of the cruiser Liberty. This was the moment of truth. All ships, listen carefully. We are not here to destroy this world. We are here to send a message. You all know your targets. Military installations only. Confirm no civilian structures in your firing solutions before you shoot. This operation will be done with precision and honor. Execute the plan. The human fleet split into smaller groups. Each had specific targets. Seungjun's fighter squadron raced ahead. Their job to clear a path through the orbital defenses. The Velkari defenders were caught completely by surprise. They had never imagined humans could reach their home world. Alarms screamed across Velkara Prime. In the capital city, Ambassador Kira ran to the military command center. She could see explosions in orbit through the windows. Human ships were attacking her world, her home. How did they get here? She demanded. Where is our fleet? A tactical officer responded, his voice shaking. Our main fleet is still deployed at the front lines. They were never expecting an attack here. The humans somehow slipped through our defenses. Kira watched the tactical display in horror. Human ships were systematically destroying military targets. Orbital defense platforms exploded one after another. Ground-based anti-ship batteries were hit with precision strikes. Shipyards were crippled. But something strange was happening. They are avoiding the cities, an officer said in disbelief. Look, every strike is hitting military infrastructure. They are not targeting civilian areas at all. As if to prove the point, A civilian evacuation transport accidentally drifted into a battle zone. Kira watched, expecting it to be destroyed. But instead, human fighters moved to protect it. They escorted it away from the fighting, actually shielding it with their own ships. "I do not understand," Kira whispered. "They could destroy our cities. They could kill millions. Why are they holding back?" In orbit, the battle continued. The human strike force moved like a surgical instrument. Every shot was calculated. Every target was verified. When a weapons platform near a residential area proved too risky to engage, they left it alone rather than risk civilian casualties. Seungjun's squadron faced heavy resistance from Velkari fighters. The enemy pilots fought desperately to defend their homeworld. Seungjun understood. He would do the same if roles were reversed. When he shot down an enemy fighter and saw the pilot eject, he made sure rescue beacons could find them. It was the right thing to do. After 2 hours, the mission objectives were complete. Every major military installation had been neutralized. The Velkari home fleet would take months to rebuild, but not a single civilian structure had been touched. Not one city had been bombed. Do-hyun broadcast a message on all frequencies, knowing the Velkari would hear it. "People of the Velkari Empire, this is Admiral Do-hyun Kim of the United Nations Space Command. We have demonstrated today that we can reach any target in your territory. We could have destroyed your cities. We could have killed your civilians. But we did not. We are not here to conquer. We are not here to commit genocide. We are here to protect our own people and to show you that continuing this war will only bring more loss." He paused, then continued. "We do not hate you. We do not want to destroy you. But we will defend ourselves with every resource we have. End this war. Let both our peoples live in peace. The choice is yours." Then, just as suddenly as they had appeared, the human fleet jumped to faster than light speed and vanished. They left behind burning military stations and a population in shock. Kira stood among the ruins of the orbital command center. Around her, Velkari officers and civilians watched recordings of the attack. They saw human precision. They saw human restraint. They saw ships that could have massacred millions but chose not to. One of her advisors approached her carefully. "Ambassador, the people are asking questions. If the humans are such savages, why did they spare our cities? If they are so weak, how did they reach our homeworld? Everything we have told them about this enemy is being questioned." Kira's scales, usually bright silver, had turned a dull gray. The color of shame in Velkari culture, because everything we told them was wrong. I was wrong. The humans are not weak. They are not savages. They are something far more dangerous. What are they, Ambassador? Kira looked up at the stars where the human fleet had disappeared. They are warriors with honor. They are fighters who show mercy. They will die to protect their people, but they will not kill innocents to hurt their enemies. They are everything we should have been and are not. She turned to face her staff. Her voice was firm despite the shame she felt. "Send a message to High Command. Tell them I request an immediate ceasefire and formal peace negotiations. Tell them the war is over. We lost the moment we started it. We just did not know until now." Across the Velkari Empire, the news spread. The humans had struck at the heart of their territory and then left without conquering. They had shown power and mercy in equal measure. The Empire's citizens began to demand answers. Why were they fighting this war? What had they done to provoke such a determined enemy? The war was not over yet, but the turning point had been reached. The Galactic Council chamber was filled once again, but this time the atmosphere was different. There was no tension, no anger. Instead, there was cautious hope. Representatives from hundreds of species watched as two figures walked toward the center floor from opposite sides. Diplomat Taeyong represented humanity. He was a quiet man in his 50s with gray hair and gentle eyes. He had spent his whole life working for peace between different groups. Now he had the chance to end a war that had cost thousands of lives on both sides. Across from him, Ambassador Kira walked slowly. Her silver scales, once bright with pride, were now darker. She carried herself differently than before. There was no arrogance, no superiority, just the weight of responsibility and regret. They met in the center and faced each other. For a long moment, neither spoke. The entire galaxy seemed to hold its breath. Kira spoke first. Her voice was steady but quiet. "Diplomat Taeyong, I come before you and before this council to offer the formal surrender and apology of the Velkari Empire." Murmurs filled the chamber. The Velkari had never surrendered to anyone. Their empire had stood for 1,000 years, conquering system after system. This was unprecedented, Kira continued, and now her voice shook slightly. We began this war because we believed humans were weak. We thought you would surrender your colonies without a fight. We were wrong. We underestimated not just your military capability, but your spirit, your determination. Your Honor, she paused, looking directly at Taeyong. When you attacked our homeworld, you could have destroyed our cities. You could have killed millions of our people. You had the power and the justification. We had invaded your territory. We had killed your citizens. But you chose mercy. You showed us what we should have known from the beginning. That true strength is not just the ability to destroy, but the wisdom to choose when not to. Taeyong inclined his head respectfully. Ambassador Kira, humanity accepts your apology. But we do not seek your surrender. We seek peace, real peace, built on mutual respect and understanding. He gestured to the holographic display that appeared between them. It showed a document glowing in the air. These are the terms we propose. First, all hostilities end immediately. Second, both sides withdraw from contested territories and return to pre-war boundaries. Third, we establish trade agreements and cultural exchange programs. Fourth, we create a joint defense pact to protect both our peoples from external threats. Kira stared at the terms in disbelief. You are not demanding reparations? Not taking our territory? Not forcing us to disarm our military? Taeyong shook his head. What would that accomplish? It would breed resentment and hatred. In 20 years, we would be at war again. No, Ambassador. If we are going to have peace, it must be real peace. That means treating you as equals, not conquered enemies. From his seat in the council, Councillor Thane watched with tears in his old eyes. He had seen so many wars in his long life, so many species destroyed or enslaved. But this was different. The humans were rewriting the rules of galactic warfare. He leaned toward his assistant Vera. Do you see what they are doing? They won the war, but they are choosing to win the peace as well. This is wisdom that most species take millennia to learn, if they ever learn it at all. Vera nodded, watching the two diplomats carefully. But Counselor, can the Velkari be trusted? What if they rebuild and attack again? Thane smiled sadly. Look at Ambassador Kira's face. Look at her posture. She is not the same person who declared war 3 months ago. The humans did not just defeat the Velkari military. They defeated their ideology. They proved that mercy and strength can coexist. That is a lesson the Velkari will not forget. At the negotiation floor, Kira read through the terms carefully. Everything was fair. Everything was reasonable. The humans were offering genuine partnership, not domination disguised as peace. I have a question, she said. The Joint Defense Pact. Does this mean that if another species attacks the Velkari Empire, humanity would come to our aid? Taeyong nodded. Yes. And if humanity is attacked, the Velkari would come to our aid. We become allies, Ambassador, protectors of each other. Kira's scales began to shimmer, slowly returning to their silver brightness. In Velkari culture, this was a sign of renewed honor. My people do not deserve this kindness, but we will accept it. And we will prove ourselves worthy of it. She extended her hand in the human gesture of agreement. Taeyong took it firmly. The chamber erupted in applause and cheers. Representatives from dozens of species stood and celebrated. A war that could have consumed the entire sector had ended not in destruction, but in hope. The treaty was formally signed 3 days later. On Earth, people celebrated in the streets. On Velkara Prime, citizens watched the signing ceremony with mixed emotions. Some felt shame at their defeat. Others felt relief that the war was over. But most felt curiosity about these strange humans who fought like demons but negotiated like saints. 1 week after the treaty, something remarkable happened. A group of young Velkari military officers requested permission to visit Earth. They wanted to understand human military philosophy. They wanted to learn how humans balanced ferocity in battle with compassion in victory. Among them was the officer who had once commanded a cruiser against Lieutenant Junho at Proxima. Her name was Yuna, and she had been promoted after surviving that battle. She stood now at the memorial wall in the United Nations Space Command headquarters. The wall listed every human who had died in the war. Thousands of names. Junho's name was there. Lieutenant Junho Park, Destroyer Relentless, killed in action defending Proxima System. Yuna placed her hand on the wall on his name. She remembered his young face on the communication screen. His steady voice. his absolute refusal to abandon his post. A human officer approached her. It was General Hyunwoo, the man who had defended Luna. He stood beside her quietly, also looking at the names. "You knew him?" Yuna asked softly. Hyunwoo nodded. "I knew of him. He was brave. He gave his life so that others could live. That is the highest honor a soldier can achieve." Yuna's voice was barely a whisper. He could have run. His ship was faster than mine. He chose to stay and fight. "That is what humans do," Hyunwoo said simply. "We fight for what we believe in. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. And we never ever abandon our own." Yuna turned to face him. "I need to ask you something, General. Something that has troubled me since the war ended. How do you do it? How do you fight so fiercely and then show such mercy? My people see these as opposites. You cannot be both a warrior and a peacemaker." Hyunwoo smiled, but it was a sad smile. "Your people are wrong. They are not opposites. They are two sides of the same coin. We fight like we are already dead because we have accepted the cost of defending what we love, but we live like tomorrow is guaranteed because we must believe that peace is possible. We are warriors when we must be. We are peacemakers when we can be. Both things are true." He paused, then added, "There is an old saying on Earth. It is better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. We train to fight so that we can protect the peace. We develop the strength to kill so that we never have to. Do you understand?" Yuna thought about this for a long time. Finally, she nodded. "I think I am beginning to. My people have been warriors for 1,000 years, but we forgot how to be anything else. You humans reminded us that there is more to strength than conquest." Over the following months, the treaty brought changes to both societies. Human and Velkari students began exchange programs. Scientists collaborated on research projects. Merchants traded goods across the former battle lines. Slowly, carefully, trust began to grow. In the Galactic Council, other species watched with interest. Some began to reconsider their own policies toward weaker neighbors. If the mighty Velkari could learn humility and the young humans could teach restraint, perhaps there was hope for the galaxy after all. Councillor Thane gave a speech that was recorded and sent across known space. "For centuries, we have believed that power and compassion could not coexist. That to be strong meant to be ruthless. That to show mercy was to show weakness. The human species has proven us wrong. They faced an empire that outnumbered them 20-1. They were attacked in their own territory. They had every reason and every right to respond with total war. Instead, they chose the harder path. They fought when they had to. They protected the innocent even when those innocents were their enemies. And in the end, they offered not conquest but friendship." He looked directly into the camera. "This is the lesson that humanity teaches us. True strength is not the absence of mercy. It is the choice to show mercy even when you have the power to destroy. The humans are indeed the galaxy's deadliest species, but they are also its most hopeful. And that makes all the difference." Years later, historians would look back at this moment as a turning point in galactic history. The human-Velkari War lasted only 3 months, but its impact lasted for generations. It changed how species viewed conflict. It changed how empires treated their neighbors. It proved that even in the darkness of war there could be light. On Earth, at the memorial wall, fresh flowers appeared every day. Families came to remember their loved ones. Children learned the stories of those who had fought. And sometimes Velkari visitors would stand beside them, adding their own flowers,